call tonight's special meeting to order. Guess we have a presentation and we have a couple new business items potentially to take care of. So I imagine, is there anything you would like to say before we get into the presentation?
No, I'm going to let Joe and his team do all the talking in terms of the presentation. But yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. They've got they got the PowerPoint, they got the boards, and
Yep.
3 items to talk about. So I think we can just jump right in.
Well, thank you for being here. I'll turn it over to Joe. You want to
Thanks.
start?
So, as you guys may recall, I don't know, maybe about 17 months ago, is that about right? So we came before you and told you that we were going to do this facilities plan. And we were going to look at everything in the town that had to do with wastewater, the collection system, pump stations, treatment plant. And we're coming to an end of that now. So we have our engineers here to go over some of the highlights of that facilities plan, specifically where the system stands and what we may have to look at moving forward. So I'm going to turn it over to Ty and Bonds, Steve and Alan, and they're going to run the show for now.
Thank you, Joe. And thank you, folks, for having us tonight. It's a pleasure to be here again. As Joe mentioned, we were here 17 months ago at the start of the program, and it's been a busy 17 months. Some of you may have noticed trucks that had done sewer investigations for a period of time, and a lot of activity, frankly, and this is kind of the culmination of that effort. We've worked closely with town staff.
Hold on one second. You guys having trouble hearing?
Yes.
We hear nothing.
Yeah, we don't hear anything. Yeah.
Oh, just
You have to push
Just
the
that
button.
microphone?
it's on buttons.
It's on.
Test, is that better? Oh, okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll do a quick recap. So again, 17 months ago, we were here, as Joe pointed out. We've been working over that period of time to investigate the entire wastewater infrastructure. We prepared a somewhat brief presentation, I think, that will capture the highlights of our approach and what we've concluded during the course of the investigations. So I will start the PowerPoint presentation. And we've put together an agenda that, again, highlights the goals for tonight's meeting, and at least the goals we're hoping to accomplish, to present the purpose of the plan. You'll hear about population projections and flows because that's a key element. This plan is intended to evaluate the needs over the next 20-year period. That's a goal set by the Connecticut Deep because wastewater infrastructure is expensive, as you well know, and it generally lasts at least 20 years. So the idea is to come up with a plan that will serve the town's needs for that period. We've evaluated the various forms of infrastructure, that is the pumping stations, the treatment plant, and the sewers, and now we'll talk at some length about those findings and conclusions. We've put together at the end of our presentation a 5-year plan that identifies the key issues that we think were highlighted as a result of this study that we'd like to bring to your attention and discuss. And lastly, Joe will present the sewer service area map. And a sewer service area map is different than a sewer map. Many of you may have seen the town has a sewer map posted on your website, and it simply shows where sewers are installed in various streets. But there's a requirement that DEEP has that the WPCA approve a specific plan that identifies where sewers can be extended and where homes or businesses can be served. It's different than the sewer map, which the sewer map shows the entire town, again, with just sewers. This map is bounded by properties. It's not just a swath of a line that goes across a certain town boundary. It's very specific, and again, Joe will get into that. Well, that's our agenda. We'll start by, again, just kind of highlighting what the goals were. Clearly, the goals are to make sure that the investments that you might make now serve the community for the 20-year period, and we'll show you how we've come up with that. Avoid permit violations. As you probably know, every community in Connecticut, actually beyond Connecticut, all communities who have wastewater plants that discharge into public waterways have a permit that's issued. In Connecticut's case, it's issued jointly by the state of Connecticut and the US EPA. So it governs what your facility is allowed to discharge. And so, as you'll see, you're at a point where you've exceeded the capacity of your facility in certain areas. And that is quite a concern, because permit violations can on occasion have occurred, and it will be important to make sure that this plan addresses the ability to mitigate or eliminate permit violations, because they do carry some consequences. And lastly, again, given the expense of wastewater infrastructure, we looked at developing a phased plan to identify priority needs, spread it over 5 years, and in fact, we actually have a plan that goes all the way to 20 years. But we're going to focus tonight on just the highest criticality, the 5-year needs. Okay, so our key tasks, excuse me, I'll just follow the screen and put my glasses on. So the key tasks is to estimate the flows. We're going to go through the methodology and the meetings we've had with Mark DeVoe and others to kind of get our arms around what Plainville might look like in terms of a sewer population over the next 20 years and where that growth is expected. We'll evaluate the infrastructure. So one side of the coin is evaluating what the flows are going to look like in 20 years. The other side of the coin is what's the condition and the capacity of the infrastructure to meet that requirement. And then lastly, identify the limitations, where we found them, and what we recommend might be the best course forward in a phased plan to address those issues. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Al to talk about some of the specifics.
Thank you, Steve. Try my best to work the microphone and also speak to the presentation.
And if you want, you can, is that podium?
Yeah, maybe that's
It might
easier,
be
honestly.
for you. You can turn the podium, face that way. That might be a little easier.
Excellent. How's that? Let me just. All right. Well, again, my name is Al Wells with Ty and Bond, and I'll speak in greater detail about the items that Steve mentioned initially. So, step one was to estimate the population and the flow projections within the sewer service area. Obviously, our focus was on the wastewater infrastructure and what future demands might be expected or anticipated. So we mentioned a 20-year planning period, and a big piece of this was meeting early on with the town, with Mark DeVoe and economic development, and of course, the sewer staff and everyone, just to understand what might happen as best you can with a crystal ball over the 20-year period. And then we took that information and then created what flows would result from that growth. So actually the town planner did an excellent job before he retired, really breaking it down by quadrant, so to speak, in the town of developments that were known or anticipated. So again, all of that information is rolled into this plan. So it included planned developments, build out of key parcels, all vacant lots within the sewer service area. I keep stressing that because obviously there's sewer avoidance areas that are not included in this. Developed unsewered parcels, there were a few of those, and sewer surface extensions, again, within the sewer service area. So taking that, we then had a population which is currently 16,000 in the sewer service area. Over 20 years, taking all that growth information, we calculated a future population of 20,700. And that would be the maximum theoretical build out in the sewer service area. And I'll get to what flows that results in shortly. While that was going on, we also began evaluating the collection system in its entirety. So as you probably know, you have 82 miles of gravity sewer, 4 miles of force main, which is pumped, pipes that are under pressure from pump stations, and 9 pump stations, which collect and convey all of the wastewater to the water pollution control facility. And an important piece, I mean, when you look at flows and estimating flows, you obviously have your sanitary waste, and that's what's shown sort of in blue on this graph as the base wastewater flow. But it's less than half of the flows when they peak at the treatment plant, which is kind of interesting. But any collection system, new or old, is always going to have some amount of leakage in it. So groundwater will find its way into manholes and into sewer pipes. Rainfall, again, even though this is not a combined sewer system, it's not designed to do that, but rainfall will find its way, into manholes at the surface. Same thing with stormwater inflow. There can be potential connections, while again not intended, but there's potentially illicit connections of perhaps a drain or something like that can find its way into the sewer, and all of that ends up at the treatment plant. So. And during wet weather, it can be quite significant. So we had to get our arms around that and understand the extent of the flows that the treatment plant sees so that we could, and I'll get into this further, basically understand what could we possibly remove and what do we need to accommodate in the most cost-effective way at the treatment plant, and even just conveying that flow to the treatment plant.
Do we want to stop here and answer any questions about what this shows? Because, again, this is an important slide. When we think about base flow, for example, you can imagine everyone using the showers at 7 in the morning, you get quite a spike. Whereas at 2 in the morning, you get very little flow. So even over the course of 24 hours, that flow from residential, commercial users, even industrial in some cases, if all those peaks occur at the same time, you can see in that blue curve a rising and falling. And similarly, when you have rain events, the leakage from cracks in the pipe, as Al will talk about in a minute, but also from sump pumps. We don't often think about that, but a number of homes have sump pumps, and even though ideally they're not connected to the sewer system, oftentimes that's the case. And that's why we see the events pile on top of each other during these wet events.
Mm-hmm. It's not unlike most utilities. If you think of water or electricity, you don't use it at a steady rate. So wastewater is just on the receiving end of this, and it arrives at peak times in peak amounts. And to design improvements, to evaluate the existing system, you need to understand those peak amounts. So it was a major part of the study. We were out there this time last year, I think starting in March, right through Memorial Day, collecting flow data to understand this. So it was really understanding future growth and then understanding existing flows was key to this whole analysis and the variability of existing flows. But I guess any questions on that?
Just one. You were out there last March through May.
Yep.
Would this year look significantly different with the amount of snow we've had?
A great question. Last year started off kind of dry. If you recall, we didn't have much snow, and we were waiting. We were out there early in March, and it was dry, and then it hit. May, we got really hit with precipitation, which is what we were looking for. You just need a few wet events to understand. This year, snow kind of has like a battery effect. It's sort of storing that precipitation, and if we get a nice gentle melt-off, it wouldn't have potentially a significant effect. But if we get a big rainstorm, Joe can speak to this. Yeah, look out. You've got the snow melting, plus you've got the rain coming.
Yeah, the ground can only absorb so much water. And if it melts really fast, it's got to go somewhere else because the ground can't absorb it. I think that this year we will see a significant jump in flows. I don't consider this a gradual meltdown. I think we're going to have a really good meltdown over the next few days. We had a good meltdown between the two storms. So yeah, we're seeing water coming in now.
Okay, so
But we're not measuring that flow. We're not doing anything with that flow other than treating it.
But we did have great conditions last year in terms of, I felt like we did a really good job capturing it. I was concerned at first. It's always a little bit of, you can't control Mother Nature. But then we had some big events last year, some significant storms. So it gave us a really good handle on those peaks that we were looking for.
Go ahead. Did you have a?
Thank you,
Yeah, go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying is really the increase in the capacity, which is causing it to exceed, is mostly rainwater and precipitation and not population, because our population hasn't grown.
Yeah, not mostly, but I would say it's around half, rough numbers, in terms of when you look at the sort of the dry weather flow versus the wet weather flow. And dry weather flow will be mostly sanitary waste, some groundwater, but then wet weather flow is all of that plus, the stormwater finding its way
Okay.
and
so-
the rain into the system. But they're both significant portions of it.
And Deb,
Okay, so I just don't understand the increase in the precipitation being 50% when we have not increased our population. So, but you're saying sewer use is increasing,
Sewer use is projected to increase.
okay,
But I think when I say 50-50, it's even today, current conditions.
Okay.
Dry summer day, flows, everything is good. Flows are fairly low. You're going to be 2-something MGD, right? Right, Joe?
yeah, we're
2
gonna,
million gallons a day. But a wet weather event, it's going to be more than 7.5.
okay,
but right now, the sanitary sewer flow to the facility does not cause us to exceed our permit limits.
okay. so-
That's fine. It's when it rains and when the snow melts and any type of an event like that, that's when we're going to exceed.
Okay, and our allowed capacity is based solely on the size of our plant?
Yes, when it was originally built, it was assigned a number.
Okay.
And the original assignment was 2.6 million gallons per day. We have a 3.2 million gallons per day, or 3.8 million gallons per day permit from the state,
Okay,
but we exceed that also.
okay,
So we'll take in upwards close to 4 million gallons per day, and at times we'll have in excess of 5 or 6 million gallons per day coming in during those rain events and those snow melts.
right.
So
okay.
that's what we have to address.
All right, thanks, Joe.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll spend a little more time on the extraneous flows, is what I'm calling them, flows other than your sanitary waste, again, just so you understand what we did. So, as I mentioned, we were out there this time last year, measuring, metering. We divided the sewer system into 23 sub-areas. The sewer system's not unlike a tree. You've got lots of branches flowing to a trunk. So on every one of those branches, we put a meter to capture the flow and measure it during dry weather and wet weather. And that's how we calculated the amount of extraneous flow. And in engineering, we refer to it as inflow and infiltration. The difference is maybe subtle, but inflow is a direct connection from a pipe. So if a yard drain or a storm drain or something like that was connected to the sewer, which again, it shouldn't be, but they exist, that would be inflow. So it rains, water goes right into the pipe. Infiltration is a little more invasive. It's cracks, defects, age of the pipe, the condition of the joints, and it's mostly groundwater just weeping in and sometimes gushing into the sewers depending on the amount of the defect. So you'll hear us throw around the term II a lot. It's inflow and infiltration, but you need to understand them both in terms of making future estimates where the sources are coming from. So that's what the metering program was for. And we also inspected about 10% of the sewer manholes. We did a distributed inspection of the manholes just to get a good sense of the general condition. And that was part of the evaluation we completed, because manholes, it's not just pipes that can have defects. It can be manholes too that are sources of infiltration and inflow. And then with all of that data, and I realize this is a busy slide, but you've also got it on your handout, we evaluated whether it was cost effective to try to pinpoint all those leak locations, all those sources of inflow and infiltration, and repair them, or would it make more sense, would it be more cost effective to just build in capacity into the system to handle the infiltration and inflow. And I'll say as part of this, you can never get rid of all of the infiltration and inflow. It would become exponentially expensive and difficult. You usually look for the low-hanging fruit, but even doing that, you can maybe get about 25% of the infiltration and inflow, that's been our experience, removed from the system, and it just becomes too cost prohibitive after that. So we made that assumption. With the inflow and infiltration we found, we said, okay, how much would it cost to remove 25% of it? And then we compared it to how much would it cost to simply, I shouldn't say simply because it's not simple, but to increase the capacity of the existing infrastructure to handle it. And we compared the two. And interestingly enough, it was equal, about as equal as given the level of precision of our estimates. So we sat down with Joe and his staff and, you know, talked about the pros and cons, and it was a long return on investment in terms of removing the infiltration and inflow. It took about 20 years in that analysis for it to equal out. And there's also a certain amount of uncertainty when you're investing that kind of money about just how effective it might be. So after we evaluated it, it was our recommendation, build in the capacity to the existing system. It's a solid, tangible return on investment that is frankly guaranteed. You've got the capacity, you can handle it. We've got all the data, so if in the future it's something that you want to revisit and pursue, we know where it exists. But right now, it is our recommendation to spend that money and get the immediate return on the investment into the infrastructures as opposed to trying to find the leaks and fix them.
Yeah, and you may recall we're doing the shuttle metal pump station. So when we rebuilt that station, we rebuilt it and we sized it to handle all that extraneous flow. We didn't try to get rid of it. It's really difficult to remove I&I. You know, if you have like some pumps that are connected to your system, so you do these smoke tests, you tell people they have to disconnect the sump pumps if you're willing to do that. And as soon as you leave the house, the plumber's down there reconnecting the sump pump, and there's no way that we know. So it's really just not cost effective to try to do that.
And the other issue with removing infiltration is that you you seal a pipe, and the water that was going into that leak, the groundwater moves up incrementally, and the next pipe segment upstream that wasn't showing infiltration now all of a sudden is, because the groundwater moved up when you stopped from entering in the sewer.
It's just important to note your system's 75 years old. So it's, you know, and it was built during a time when there wasn't much PVC, and it's starting to show. We all get older, right, Ben? It's how it goes.
Okay, so that was a major decision in the study, a major recommendation. So having said all of that, we projected, well, these are your current and your projected flows, including, as there was an earlier question about, it includes the future sanitary wastewater growth, and it also includes the infiltration and inflow that we measured. So you can see that currently, although I can barely see it from here, let me go to my slide. I believe it's 2.6 is our current average daily flow. And our future average daily flow is 3.5, I believe. Sorry, I'm trying to find the slide.
3.3.
3.3. Yeah.
One thing, we'll point this out later, but since we're on the slide, it's worth noting that the 2010 design, which was the most recent comprehensive design, the peak flow, the basis of the design was a peak flow of 7.5 million gallons per day. So even currently, the peak flows are exceeding what the plant was designed to handle.
And those differences, you know, that the blue is the average daily flow, and the orange is those peak flows we talked about, the wet weather events. And the infrastructure needs to be designed to handle the peak flows. So now we've got these flow numbers, current and projected, and we begin evaluating the capacity first of the collection system, so the pipes and the pump stations, but I'm just going to talk about pipes for now. So we looked at the major trunk sewers in town because that's where the flow begins to aggregate and really flow through. So we looked at 14 miles and modeled them of the trunk sewers for those flows, current and future. And we assessed their ability to handle the current and the future flows. So this next slide focuses in on what is a current or pending capacity concern. So the first one would be Journey Road, the pump station and a section of gravity sewers associated just downstream of that pump station where it discharges to. And that's number one.
Maybe they didn't see that. In case you don't know where that stuff is. So the Journey Road pump station is right here. Okay, and then you go up to the Cancer Treatment Center, Technology Park.
Yep.
And then as you're heading down New Britain Ave, we have a section of pipe that does need to be upsized. It needs to go from 8-inch to 10-inch.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming with the PDD that was just
Right, that's
approved by planning and zoning,
Mhm.
is that figured into this?
It is, we have to, this will get adopted by the POCD. So, yeah, we actually work with them, so we don't do we can't go into unsewered areas where the town has already said that these are sewer avoidance areas. We're not looking to go into any of those. We're
Okay.
just strictly dealing with the areas that we can develop. And this would be one of them
Okay.
that's slated for development.
Okay.
So that was a red flag in this near-term window, what we're saying, the first 5 years of recommendations, but this one's more critical than that because it's necessary if any development is to take place there. And then areas 2 and 3, which are essentially about right where we are now, right near the municipal center. These are major trunk lines that are currently over capacity and currently beginning to surcharge or back up, not out of the manholes, but within the pipe. So they are having capacity concerns under current flows that would only be exacerbated as flows increase. So they are in this 5-year recommendation. Joe, anything you want to say about those?
So the flows from Technology Park, they have to flow through this area. It's the only way they're going to get to the treatment plant. They don't necessarily have to flow through this area, but we are having issues in that area and they need to be addressed. So these are the 2 areas that we're looking to tackle it first. Let's get these done because we know that there's going to be development up there. We know that. That development can't happen until we can accommodate that development. Right now, we can't.
We can't, okay. Can you, circle number 2?
Yep. So this is
Give me
going to
some-
be
give me
those
some
front
street
roads.
names
You
in
get
there.
the train tracks and the crossing where the flea market is. That
Oh,
whole
okay.
area.
Yep, okay.
Everything kind of converges there and then cuts across to down to the treatment plant. So it cuts across and then goes down.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, and so that's in the near 5-term window. Then, and this includes those sewers, but this is for the 20-year planning period. These were, which is not a huge amount. I mean, we mentioned before you had 82 miles. This is 11,000 feet, so it's, 2 miles approximately. But these were all red flagged as sewers with future capacity concerns if the growth happens that's projected in the 20-year plan. And it also includes the ones I just mentioned. At any rate, I know without street names it's a bit difficult to tell, but they're mostly centered in this sort of, in the municipal center area, with the exception of the one area up in the northwest section. So that was the sewers, the capacity evaluation. The next thing we looked at were the pump stations. So we're focusing on 4 pump stations here, again, because they're in the 5-year capital improvement plan that we're recommending, but we evaluated all of them. And most of the needs were really based on, number one, could they handle the flows currently? Could they handle the flows in the future? And then it was also a conditional assessment. How old were they? What was the condition of the equipment and the building itself? So I'm just going to, again, as I mentioned, just focus on the 4 pump stations within the 5-year window. So Journey Road, we just talked about. Even though that's not that old at 2016, it does not have capacity for a technology park. So that is priority 1. The next station, well, the next 3 stations all have current capacity issues and, of course, therefore have future flow capacity issues. And these are older. Not that 2007 seems that long ago, but here we are, almost 20 years later. So there's certainly systems that need to be updated. And it's not the entire pump station for all of these, but it's going to be pumps, electrical equipment to power those pumps, other pieces of equipment that have aged out. So it's Norton Park, Cook Street, and Ashford Road Pump Station. And they all fall into that category that even for current flow, they need upgrades. I guess anything you'd want to add on those 3, Joe?
I guess what I would say about capacity is, so each of these pump stations has 2 pumps. And 1 pump should handle the flow, 1 pump should be your standby or your backup. When the flows are rising, they're running straight out 24 hours a day, both pumps, and there are times when both pumps can't keep up with the flow. And we'll get alarms for high wet well levels. So they do have issues that need to be addressed.
Okay. So that got us through collection system, pump stations, and now we'd,
Can I ask-
really the meat of this presentation, or a big chunk of it, is about the treatment plant evaluation, which is obviously your most complex and largest asset in the collection system. Or the,
Can I say, yeah, I do have a question.
Mhm.
Just back up one. The project up on Journey Road, that can't happen until the pump station is updated and a lot of the pipe that's backing up already.
Correct.
That, so their projects will not be approved until this is done? What's
They wouldn't be approved to the extent that they want to develop. We could maybe handle some development up there, but not anywhere near what they want to do.
okay.
It-
So
it
before
just-
anything passes through planning and zoning, you have to,
We have to sign off on it.
Okay.
Yep. And we're talking with them, and they know the situation that we're facing.
okay,
So hopefully, I think we'll be able to work our ways through that.
okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
okay.
The only other thing before we get into the treatment plant, if you don't mind me just really quick, I want you to know that we talked earlier that it's a 20-year lifespan. So your last upgrade was 2007. So your 20 years is year after next. So that it's not that, even though sometimes you look at it and you say, gee, everything looks new. Well, that's because we maintain it, but it's 20 years old. So,
Okay. Well, similar to the other pieces of infrastructure, the treatment plant has to be able to handle the peak flows that it sees. It doesn't have a choice. They're coming down the pipe. And what we're showing here are the same graph we showed before with current average day, current peak, future average day, future peak, and then the red horizontal line is the peak capacity of the plant that was constructed in the 2010 upgrade. So that's 7.5 versus, you can see that it's obviously below what it's currently seeing for peak flows. So we set about figuring out how to handle this peak flow capacity at the treatment plant. Obviously, doing so is necessary to treat the flow effectively and to give the staff the tools it needs, and to improve the reliability and efficiency and resiliency of the treatment plant. So these were key components of our recommendations here in our evaluation. So I guess just backing up, two approaches to dealing with this. One would be just build a bigger treatment plant, but that would be incredibly cost prohibitive. So our first plan of attack was how can we use what we have and come up with a way to attenuate those flows at the treatment plant. In other words, shave those peak flows down so that we can get it to a level that the treatment plant can handle with a lesser upgrade. So that was our approach, and it's a tight site. So this is, the recommendation, we went back and forth a lot with Joe and his staff about how to make this work, and we feel really good about this. So step one, I should back up. The headworks, which is the gray building in the lower left corner, that currently cannot handle a future peak flow of 11.4, not even the 9.4. So we're building a side stream headworks. So when I say headworks, it's primary treatment. It's where you're getting the grit out, any large objects in the wastewater through a screen. So we will have a side stream for those peak flows so that it essentially has some help and it can go around the side stream. So that's the first piece of this, is a new peak hour side stream treatment unit. Again, it's just physical treatment, screening the wastewater, getting the grit out. Constructing essentially large tanks that can store these peak flows. You gotta remember, it's a peak hour flow. It might last an hour, 2 hours. So the volume is big, but there's room on site to store it. So that way it's keeping it from hitting the rest of the treatment system. So what we're proposing here is actually using the existing primary clarifiers that are unused at the moment, using that for part of the storage of those peak flows. So that's the first box on the left. To the left, a pre-EQ tanks. And then to the right, next to the old control building associated with the original plant, which is largely unused now, there is some things in there that will need to be relocated to construct another equalization tank. So together, those two tanks will attenuate those peak flows. So that is a really big deal. That allows us to leverage the rest of the treatment plant without making it significantly bigger.
And how many millions of gallons or hundreds of thousands of gallons can you store until lower flows?
Right. It can store, so it'll take that peak flow of 11.4 MGD. So, 1 MGD is 700 GPM. So, I mean, you're talking about 1,000 GPM over the course of an hour or two that you'll store. I can't do the math that quick in my head, but yeah, just to give you an idea. So, but yeah, they're hundreds of thousands of gallons, tank volumes. And it's honestly not that different. A lot of this is, I don't know if you're familiar with the Hartford MDC, but they're a much larger plant over there on Brainerd Road, but they've effectively done the same thing, or it's near complete now on a much larger scale. So it's a common thing to do when you have the space. So we were fortunate that we had the space here to do this, to store those flows. So now that those peak hour flows are stored, we can upsize the pumps that feed those 4 circular tanks there. Those are your sequential batch reactors. They're really the heart of the biological treatment process in the plant. So, and we can make improvements to those SBRs within the same footprint so they can handle the additional flow and strength of the wastewater. So we're just going to increase that. We're not going to push 11.4 through it. We're just increasing those to 8.7 MGD. That's as much as we can get through. So that's really the difference, the 11.4 peak and the 8.7 that we're going to be able to get through the treatment plant. So it's not even, if that makes sense. We're moving flow constantly through the treatment plant. It's just that delta that we need to store. So they will get new treatment equipment inside those, including, they'll have new pumps for air. It'll have new decanters, new aeration equipment. Really, those are getting old. That was 2010. So it's just refreshing all of that equipment and increasing its treatment size. So then the next step is to, well, this is some of the same, replacing the blowers. Those, you need oxygen to treat the wastewater, air to treat the wastewater. Right now there's 3. We're going to put in 4 blowers, actually 5, 1 for each tank plus a standby. So this will again give the town more flexibility. Sometimes a blower goes down, so you've got that standby, and you've got a dedicated blower for each tank, which gives you nice control versus trying to balance 3 for 4 tanks. And so that's largely the upgrade for the SBR, the sequential batch reactors. Then the flow goes to the filters, and that was the newer upgrade done around 2018. So those are the phosphorus cloth filters to remove that nutrient. So they'll be fine. They can handle the 8.7. But we're going to we're proposing a new reaction tank, essentially a bigger tank to dose some polymer and coagulant to help that phosphorus precipitate out and get trapped on the filters. So it'll just, again, expand the capacity of the existing filter system without having to create bigger filters, simply by creating another reaction tank. Then on the UV, this is the last step of well, not quite, the second to last step on the treatment, where you're disinfecting the wastewater, the ultraviolet disinfection system. That just needs to be upgraded a little bit to handle the larger flow from the 7.5 to the 8.7. And then the final system is the post-aeration tank. And right now, Joe, you can probably explain this, but better than I can perhaps, but there's no way to take that tank down. And the idea is to build a split so that you can take one side down versus the other to give the operators more flexibility in operating and maintaining that system.
Yeah, that's basically it. The sort of one way to look at this, because we're not going to be building new buildings or really new tanks. We're going to do some stuff underground. It's almost like giving the treatment plant a facelift. We're going to get everything back looking good and running right, but we're trying to keep the cost down as much as we can. So we're not looking to build or replace a technology or try to do anything like that. We think that with the technology we have and the equipment that we have, that we can do this for the least amount possible, which,
So these recommendations would take us from 7.5 million, that line, and moving it up to 8.7.
yes,
Is it
Correct.
ultimately?
We're up to 11, actually.
Okay.
And that's the beauty of the
With
storage.
with the storage,
storage.
that you would. Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
My recollection was the storage was like around 350,000 gallons.
Okay.
I think that was the number you were
Okay.
thinking about.
A few other things, upsizing the main generator at the treatment plant. There's actually 2 generators at the treatment plant, which isn't necessarily ideal. One's for the filter building, the other's for the rest of the treatment plant. So we're proposing one larger generator just to handle the whole treatment plant, so they don't have to try to, it's just another thing to maintain and balance when you're trying to restore power or run on emergency power. So make that one large generator, and then to actually utilize the generator that's at the filter building at the Journey Road pump station. So it's kind of a nice reuse of an existing generator. And then there's a few other things, not directly related to the treatment process, but just things that have aged out. That there's some roof improvements, decant tanks, so things like that. That are just, it's logical to do those while we're doing the treatment flow. Upgrading the plant to handle the flow, also upgrade the plant related to its supporting infrastructure. So, well, this will be impossible for me to read here and probably impossible for you to read there, but it is in the handout. So these are the costs associated with everything I just described, our estimates of cost. So I'm going to flip to the handout as well.
That's why I gave you that stress ball. This is that moment now that you pick that up and you go, okay.
That's why Rob's here now, right? Yeah.
A lot of money.
You can Rob too.
Yeah.
You got one. Oh, yeah.
So I realize there's a lot of cost information here. So on the presentation, why you can't see it, we were sort of building out the table, but let's focus on the largest one first, which is the water pollution control facility improvements. So that when we say total project OPC, it's an opinion of probable cost. So that has a cost of $24,900,000, our estimate. And you can see above that is the estimated design cost and the estimated construction cost for that. And the rest of this table, well, there's an important piece here. If you continue to go down, you'll see probable Clean Water Fund grants, probable CWF grants. And the number is $5,340,000. So that CT Deep through the Clean Water Fund, just like you're using for Shuttle Meadow. Although that's not a 20% grant, but the treatment plant would get a 20% grant, which is very good. So that's a $5 million grant. We were actually just talking with Deep this morning about this. So they certainly feel the treatment plant would qualify for that because you are solving existing problems with these upgrades. But the remaining 80% obviously would be the town's share. So the table continues to break that down. As you continue going down the table, you'll see, the town share total, which is obviously less than the total project cost. It's less than by the 5.34 million. That's the 21.36 million for the treatment plant. And then the table just continues to amortize it based on the remaining would be a 2% loan from the Clean Water Fund. So we've done this for every one of the projects we just presented here, and I realize that's a lot to digest. We put the years in that first row. So we had starting the treatment plant design in 27. Also in 27, we had that one section of sewer on New Britain Ave that was associated with the Journey Road and the Technology Park. And then continuing to move to the right, you'll see in 27, we also had the Journey Road pump station. So those 27 projects, all starting in 27, are what we consider to be the highest priority. Then the others we've just phased out, but obviously they're right on the heels in terms of those other sewer improvements and the other pump stations.
So The CWF grant, that's state.
Correct. And
Do you
it's,
know if there's any federal?
No, it's the Clean Water Fund, which is capitalized by the federal government, but it's run by the state.
Okay, so, all right.
I know, I can tell you that Mike and I have talked about maybe some other funding sources. We're not sure if we would qualify for rural development or anything through USDA, but we will track those down and find out what we can get, if anything.
Okay. And this would be infrastructure improvements, CMDA, possibly?
Potentially. I mean, we're gonna try to look at every opportunity we can.
Yeah, okay.
We would expect some grants from the power company as well, because there are some energy saving features that will be proposed, and they've had a pretty good track record of helping municipalities get some monies for their wastewater improvements.
We did receive money from Eversource when we did the phosphorus upgrade. We got some grant money, so.
All right, any other questions? Rob, you're okay? Okay.
What-
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to share? I know a lot of numbers. I don't know, as far as our next steps would be, maybe.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think maybe Joe wants to speak to when you look at this plan, the sequencing that he has in mind, I think would be the
Yeah.
next step
Okay.
to explain to you how they would like to go about it.
No, I think it is just moving total. So I think what we would like to propose is to do the Journey Road improvements, which is going to be the piece of piping, which is 330,000.
Yep.
And then the Journey Road pump station upgrade, which is just under 2 million.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I have a question, but it's for Mike. Because the cost to Journey Road is so significant and because that's new, is there any thought put into charging the developer of the Journey Road system for this cost? Because,
Yes.
okay,
Yes, and Joe has had those conversations, and again, it's a second part, or later on in this agenda, we have the tie-in fee discussion in terms of matching the practice with a vote from, or recommendation from WPCA to the council to approve what those tie-in fees would be. It's really kind of clarifying and ratifying what we need to do so that as this discussion, Joe's already begun with the development.
okay, all right, great. And to Norton Park, I mean, because we have other towns coming in and using our park for different games and stuff, and what kind of fees are charged for, are there fees? There are fees, aren't there?
I don't know about that aspect in terms of fees. I was referring to in terms of straight development when you tie into the system.
Okay,
I'm not sure how.
that would, okay.
A little bit different, yeah.
Just trying to think outside the box here of how we can recoup some of the money.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm almost thinking like an in-kind service, and we don't do any of that.
Right.
We have no
okay.
in-kind services
Right.
between the schools or the town halls and
Right.
all that, so.
Quarter flush toilets, whatever.
Yeah.
They used to have those back in the day, right?
Yeah,
I'm showing my age with that one.
so again, I would look at that Journey Road improvements, so that would be under the collection system. It would be item 1, and under the pump station, it would be item 1. I think that at this time, we should also be looking at item 2 under the collection system. Because as I showed you on the map, if we do Technology Park, we already have a problem down by the railroad tracks. So we're gonna have to address that. It's only gonna get worse once Technology Park gets developed. So those would be the 3 that I think that we should look at trying to get taken care of in the next few years. Hopefully we can start on it next year. We have put applications into the state for funding for design. On the Journey Road, we probably won't go through the state because, especially on the engineering, because it's so small. I know it doesn't sound like it's small, but $330,000, if you go through state funding, the requirements that you have to meet to get that state funding is gonna cost us more than the $330,000. New Britain Avenue, I'm sorry.
And just real, like with the, down here on East Main Street,
Mhm.
what kind of arrangements with the railroad tracks or the company that now owns them? Like, is there a potential coordination? I mean, or any special permitting for us to do work under? I mean, I imagine the pipes, they must go under the railroad tracks somewhere.
Yeah, I believe there is a force main that goes under it. But we would work with the railroad company.
Okay.
We'd have to do that.
All right.
It would probably add a little bit of cost because what we'd end up doing is doing work at night, but then we'd have to restore it enough so that they can do their trains during the day. But
Okay.
it's definitely can be done.
Okay. All right. Any other questions about, I guess, and this would all be, you're talking, Joe, you're talking the collection systems 1 and 2 and the pump station 1, our initial, let's get this done now.
Yes. 1, and 2.
Okay.
But we also have to look at the treatment plant.
Yep.
So we're gonna want to start doing some design on that probably next year. And that will go through the state. So that's not gonna be so much on the town, but at some point, we're gonna have to appropriate the full amount. We don't have to spend any of it, and it'll be contingent on them funding it. But they won't they won't give any grants unless the town is committed
Right.
and
Right.
voted
We need to
whatever,
approve
it's
the project
$24 million.
before they'll approve any funds coming to
Yeah.
us. Okay, no, we're familiar with that.
So, we will be looking for a large appropriation probably next year
Okay,
for the treatment plant, but that doesn't mean that it's gonna get spent
Right,
anytime
right.
soon.
okay.
Journey Road, for the project going up,
Yep,
it'd be their responsibility to get to Journey Road pump station?
yeah, there's currently a gravity line that goes up to the top of the hill. And they would be responsible for coming down, I don't remember the name of the, Loon Lake maybe, is the road. So they would have to come down Loon Lake and then connect to it right at the top of the hill on the road,
Okay.
which I think is Mountain Road.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, I'll mention this now just because we're talking about technology park. So we're gonna talk a little bit later about how the connection fees work. Under current practice, the connection fee for the development that's being proposed would be 2.1 million. Obviously, that can offset the work that we need to do.
Okay.
But that'll have to be negotiated and figure out how maybe that's palatable for everybody and what's a good number. And we're not there yet.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? Now, do you want to talk about the collection systems 3 and pump stations, I guess 2, 3, and 4? I take it those are after we get through this initial, if
Yeah,
4
so-
went the way you wanted.
2, 3, and 4 need to be done, but nothing we're going to do, is going to impact those pump stations. So they need to be done, but it's not as critical. You don't need to do any of those to accommodate the Journey Road area,
Okay.
but they do need to be.
So clearly that Journey Road, that's a priority.
That's the priority right now.
That flows into East Main Street, which makes that a priority, and that's how we're kind of where we are.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly.
All right.
So the next item in this
Yes.
thing is the sewer service area map. So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. So the town's required as part of this facilities plan to create a sewer service area map. And what that map is, it's delineation by lot where we're gonna run sewers and where we're not gonna run sewers. Now, we do have sewer avoidance areas that pertain to the quarries and stuff like that. But there are areas of town that we have not sewered yet, and there's reasons that we haven't sewered them. Mostly it's gonna be, Route 84 is a problem for us because we have properties on the other side of that. And, it may be a good solution for those properties maybe to go to Southington, because we do share sewers with Southington where properties go back and forth. We also have issues around railroad tracks, rivers, Route 72. So we've developed a sewer service area map that we're gonna ask you to approve. And once you approve that sewer service area map, there's 5,000 customers, 6,000 customers right now. There will be 175 properties that we're not identifying right now to sewer because of those restrictions. There's also topography issues over by 84 where we'd have to install a pump station. So they're much bigger projects to get to those areas. And again, it's 175 properties, just about all homes. There's a couple of buildings in the North Washington Street towards the Pequabic River that we can't get to. But that'll bring us up to about 97, 98% sewered. And it doesn't mean that we have to sewer right away. It's just we have to identify those areas that we may one day sewer. And those areas that we're not identifying, those 175 properties, the board can always come back and include them with another vote. You can amend your sewer plan. It's just right now to get it approved, we don't, it's just gonna really muddy the waters because you can't get to them. So there'll be, I think that there's maybe some motion discussion coming up where
Yes.
we're gonna deal with the sewer service area map and take that up at a future meeting.
Okay. All right, so any questions on the sewer service area map? All right. So do we want to talk about
Yep.
the second item under new business
Sure.
tonight?
So that has to do with the connection fees. Currently, the practice is that we charge $3,000 per unit. So if you tear down a house and you build 12 condominium units, and I use that because it's happened a few times, each one of those units would pay $3,000. Right, as opposed to one sewer pipe coming from those 12 units and just charging them one $3,000 assessment. It's really a matter of fairness. So if you go and sewer a neighborhood, each home's gonna pay $3,000. And they're gonna have an impact on the treatment plant. It's gonna be a home, it's gonna be about 300 gallons per day. If you go in there and you have Technology Park, 172 units, that has a much bigger impact on the treatment plant. And charging them $3,000 is not fair to the homeowner, and it's not fair to the town, because the town has to accommodate that flow, and we need to do upgrades to accommodate that flow. Yeah, so what we're looking for is, and I think you probably have some language on that,
Yeah. we do.
as to how we're really just voting to make official what we're already doing. It's what we have been doing.
Okay.
It's just not voted anywhere. We thought it was voted somewhere. We can't find it, so we're just gonna re-vote it at the board, if the board's willing.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we did talk about this at one point. I don't know if it was with this council or with planning and zoning or,
I remember talking about it with the council.
right, and it was some builder wanted to put one connection and he was building 3 units or something like that and,
Correct.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, but
So we
just-
did discuss this before.
We did, and I thought we voted
Okay.
it, but we just can't find the vote.
Okay, did you look at planning and zoning minutes or did you just
No,
look at
because
council?
planning and zoning minutes wouldn't govern the water pollution control of the town council.
How about ZBA? Would ZBA? No?
No,
Never, just us,
it
right?
would, it's
Okay,
really up to you guys.
I remember
We
discussing
did
it.
discuss it, I just can't find a
Okay.
vote.
Okay, all right, thanks, Joe.
Now, both the motions we have scheduled tonight, we're acting as the WPCA. These would go to the council
They would come to the council Monday.
at some point, and we would have to, as the council, then we would actually go ahead and take action. Okay.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
I just wanna say the reason that is the whole Shuttle Meadow pump station that we filed the applications with Clean Water Fund, with this WPCA authority approving everything, not the town council, and it came back to us saying, no. You have to, the town council is the only legal authority, quote unquote, to approve and move these type of situations forward. So,
Okay.
no different than, P and Z recommending to the town council to approve X, Y, Z. WPCA is recommending to the town council to approve
Yep.
these type of concepts or projects.
Okay.
Right.
And to cover ourselves, what we're actually gonna do is we're gonna have the WPCA approve it.
Yep.
And,
Right.
and send
And
it back to the
recommend.
council, so there'll be 2 approvals, so the deep can't come back and say, well, the other
Yeah.
board should have done
Right.
it, or this board.
Right.
We're just gonna have
Exactly.
both
It-
boards
We're
approve.
just checking all the boxes as far as.
And it might be overkill, but at the same time, it's checked, and it's, I don't think anybody can deny it after,
Yeah.
say,
Yep.
we didn't do the right steps, so.
It's well worth the 3 minutes of our time that it's gonna take.
Correct,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
All right. All right, any other questions, comments?
No, I mean, I think I covered as much as I could. If I missed anything, just let me know.
Okay. Well,
Probably up there
obviously,
somewhere.
thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you all.
We do have a lot, I think, to absorb with especially with the presentation and some of the challenges, I'll say, that we have going forward as far as, flow and accommodating that. But, I guess just looking back to the initial presentation, currently with DEEP, what are we permitted per day?
So the discharge permit that we have is
Yes.
3.8 million gallons per day.
And we are exceeding that
Yes.
regularly.
Well, we exceeded it. We exceeded the 2.6 for over 90 days in a row. Is
And
which
that-
was
and that-
what prompted this whole thing
Okay.
was.
So I remember we spoke,
Yeah.
I guess 17 months ago, speaking about that was,
Somewhere around
Refreshing
February
that
when
number,
it starts
yeah.
melting, we start exceeding, and we'll
Okay.
exceed straight through the summer.
all right. All right, any other comments or questions? All right, I guess unless Tom's, anything from town manager?
No, you should all have the prepared motion.
Yep, we have 2 motions. If someone cares to take up item number 1?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Councilwoman Christopher.
motion for the Water Pollution Control Authority to approve and recommend the town council approve the sewer service area map.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2,
Mr. Chair,
Councilman Gitteman.
motion for the Water Pollution Control Authority to approve and recommend the town council clarify and ratify the current policy in place that all units that are not single-family homes be treated as separate individual units, and as such shall be charged a sewer connection fee of $3,000 per unit.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That completes all of our new business this evening. Unless someone has something else to share, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, well, we are adjourned. We'll see everyone Monday night for the next regular council meeting. Thank you, everyone.